I don't think I've ever met a pastor who didn't at some point doubt his calling. I know men who've been in local church service for 40, 50, even 60 years. And there were times of doubt because, sin, the effects of sin, we often are anxious about things, paranoid about things. Pastors are an insecure lot, as they tend to be anyway. I know that can be true of me sometimes. So you're going to doubt. There's just no real way around it. You're going to hear those internal voices, and sometimes you're going to hear external voices. But really, there's no real silver bullet. No, I don't think there's so much of an objective answer because you've already received presumably the internal call. You sense the call to ministry. You love the things of God. As Spurgeon said, you had an overpowering love and desire for these things, and that's a good place to start. And the church has confirmed your gifts. They've heard you preach and teach, and they've interviewed you. They've invested in you, and so there's that external call. You've received that, and so those things are important. And so I think there are things you can do, like go back to your church that called you. Go back to those who mentored you or who are mentoring you. I always encourage young men to have one or two or three or more men who've been in the ministry a lot longer. And you go to them and talk this through with them because they've been there. Have someone who mentors you who's been in just about every conceivable situation. I've been blessed to have that. And so when I doubted my calling, I went to them and said, what do you think? Here's what I'm thinking. Is this just anxiety talking to me? Is this kind of a mirage I'm seeing? Or really, is this an issue? And one thing I wrote the chapter in the book, and then I went back and added this because it seemed obvious to me and I'd missed it, was talk to your wife. One of the most important people in my ministry is Lisa, my wife. I asked her, what do you think of, I'm having all these doubts. When I had doubts in the ministry, she kind of kept me in the ring. She would kind of put me back and say, no, go back and fight on. Because, she knew my heart, knew my habits, knew what I was presumably involved in and not involved in. And usually, unless you've disqualified yourself morally or something like that and violated 1 Timothy 3, 1-7 or Titus 1, and you still want to be in ministry, then you're probably called to ministry. You're just having doubts, and even sometimes it may be helpful to take time off. I took about 1.5 years between my last two churches. It really helped to seal and kind of crystallize my calling. Because there are going to be times in ministry too when you just have that calling, and that's it. For me, I went through a season where I doubted it, but then once I realized I'm called, and this is I want to stay with this because I have no doubt that the Lord has called me. And so just some of those things, and there's some, I get to some of the others. I think I have 6 or 7 things in the chapter, but those are the most fundamental things I think when you doubt your calling. Again, and you will.